Hey guys, hope your day's going well. I got some comments asking if I can talk about some of my past experiences with stocks, when I started, also talk about the mistakes that I learned from. So I think that's a great idea. So I'm going to walk you through my investing journey, guys, okay? So get ready, buckle up, because man, this is going to be a ride, all right? So back in the day, I started investing at the age of 16. American Funds, which is a mutual fund. This is what my parents got me started with, okay, back in the day. And at the same time, I was working at Walgreens. And after working there for a few years, I was able to get stock options. When Walgreens opened their 4,000th store, they issued or gave all employees stock options. And so I actually sold all of mine to go to Europe and backpack around because at that time I was sophomore in college. I was a freshman going into sophomore year, I believe it was. And so I used that to go with my friends backpacking all around Europe, which was an amazing experience. I'm so happy I did that. Especially, this is the crazy thing, is I sold Walgreens stock when it was at like around $40 a share back in 2006, guys. And the stock right now is lower than that today, 20 years later. Unbelievable. So good move on my part there, right? But I also had a bad experience with Enron. Believe it or not, my dad bought this one for me and the stock went bankrupt. So I had to go through that experience. And I think that we got like a couple $100 back from claiming the loss on our taxes. But that was my dad's pick on that one, okay, back in the day. And so crazy I had that experience, but then got paid the stock options, through Walgreens. So that was cool. Had a great experience in Europe. And remember, life is about experiences, in my opinion, not material things, because in the end, that'll make you happy for a little bit, but that goes away and then you're looking for the next thing, right? So I know a lot of people, it's about status because we compare ourselves with other people, which we do naturally because of social media, right? But try not to compare yourself against other people because that will not bring you joy or happiness in your life. I've learned that, okay? But anyways, so the stock option plan, then moving forward here, then let's see, the next thing was, in 2000. Okay, so Facebook, I want to talk about this now. So when I was in college, 2005 is when Facebook first came out. Or it was 2005, right in there. I think it was 2004, actually, my bad. So Facebook first came out. I was a sophomore in college. I remember my friend's girlfriend set me up an account. I was like, what are you talking about? She went and did it for me. And then it was, everyone was on it, obviously. And being in college when that first hit, man, was it wild, okay? But awesome times, obviously seeing who people are dating, and we never saw this before in their life, so it was really cool, right? But anyways, so Facebook, I had been watching that one, obviously, using the platform, and so when they had their IPO in 2012, I told my dad, at this point, I had very little money still, I was coming out of college, and so my dad fronted me, I remember, at the time. We both bought 100 shares. He paid for it all at first, and then 100 shares, he said, is yours, and you can pay me back later, and then the other 100 shares is mine. And I paid him literally, I remember, 2 months later, because is when I was started working with the company selling insurance. Remember, I still to this day sell cancer insurance, heart insurance, home healthcare, stuff like that. But I started in 2012, so I paid my dad back within a couple months, I remember, and then we rode this up. Obviously, you guys know where the stock price is now, but here's one of the mistakes I made, which I don't really consider it a mistake, because if something, happens or changes fundamentally with the company, that's when it's okay to sell the stock. And remember when Facebook was changing to Meta? Obviously, their name is still Meta, but they were, remember, investing all this money into the metaverse, which got really big for a while. But it wasn't, they were taking big losses, and I didn't like the direction of the company. I bought it more for their, their advertising and what they were doing before. And so I ended up selling out of it. Now, the great thing is I bought the stock at $31 a share. Me and my dad averaged in. We bought, I remember, like 34 and then bought again in the 20s, and our average was 31, okay? The stock was at $350 when we sold, okay? So we made a 10-bagger on it, and I was okay because things changed fundamentally. They were going the metaverse route, which I was like, nope, that's not what I signed up for. And obviously hindsight's 2020. If I held on to it, it would have been a 20-bagger, more than that now, guys, right? But we didn't know at that time that AI was going to be a part of the story, okay? So that's why I'm not kicking myself on that one, because of the changes, that did happen. And artificial intelligence obviously changed the game for them as well, getting, growing in that. So, but that's a mistake, right? If you just hold quality companies long-term and just trust, founder and CEO led, like Mark Zuckerberg, right, that they will take you to the promised land, and that's where you can get the exponential return. So I consider that maybe a minor mistake, okay? But again, I still made a nice gain on it. So that was big. Also, I remember I told my dad after the Great Recession, 2008 to 2010 or whenever that ended, 2011, I remember telling my dad, buy Bank of America stock, because I knew the banks were going to get bailed out. They couldn't let the banks go under. It went to $5 a share. My dad bought it, listened to me, and he held it all the way till it went to $40 per share. He got a nice 8x return. It did take about 10 years for it to get there, okay? But still a great win nonetheless. So that was another big win. So I wasn't involved with that one. That was all my dad's money. So I was proud that really helped him to, have that money to retire and all that. So I'm so happy that he listened to me and got in that one and put a lot in. And then, like I said, we got the Facebook win as well, even though we sold out a little early, still got a 10Xer on that one, okay? So that's why we were feeling the momentum going, right? We even played oil stocks along the way, I forgot to mention. I'm going to tell you this story. So this is when I first started selling insurance, like I said, in 2012, 2013, right in there. I was out on a farm. This is in Ottawa, Illinois. That's where I started selling insurance, and now I'm obviously out in Colorado. But I was out on a farm talking to two farmers who were brothers. One of them had one eye, I remember, okay? But they were telling me there was this silica sand plant not too far away. You could actually see it, part of it, from their house or from their farm. And they said that the silica sands, mixed with water, this is what they use with fracking to pull up the oil from underneath. So, and at that point, oil was a lot bigger. Obviously now, right, semiconductors are the new oil, okay? But back then, oil was big. And so me and my dad bought silica sand, SLCA, and we made a lot of money on that first cycle up where, the price per barrel of oil went way up, and we made a lot of money with that play based on me talking to these two farmers. And I remember they had king size, like Snickers and Reese's and Kit Kats at their farm that they gave me before I left. So I made a sale. They told me that investment opportunity, and I got a king size, Snickers, I think I took, right? So those memories, pretty crazy. When you just talk to people, you never know, right, what, opportunities can come your way. So, but anyways, so made some money on that one. Then we played it again later, and unfortunately caught it in the down cycle, and then we lost some money, but not as much as we made. And then we played it up again one more time, made money, and then we're like, okay, we're done with oil, too cyclical, too stressful. And so that was a learning experience. Now, like I said, it's semiconductors. And this is where, I'm happy to be involved with AI, guys. AI came along and I was like, yes, this is my bread and butter. And I've been paying attention to the sector since, guys. That's why, becoming a member obviously is going to benefit you, because, I'm putting so much time and effort, I hope you know, into the best of the best, big theme names, all relating around AI. That's what the Millionaire Maker portfolio is going to give you, okay? And I'm telling you, if you follow me, we're going to get to the promised land together, okay? All my experiences, okay? And I have another one coming up here. Not obviously, becoming a member, you can help me. Super thanks, okay, is really helpful. Remember, this helps me support my family, because I am trying to do this more full-time versus do my insurance. So just know you're helping me out when you do that. Also, if you want to share these videos, guys, remember, on other platforms, whether it be X, doesn't matter what it is, feel free, Facebook, you can do that, okay? Also, share it with your friends, family, coworkers, and every time you comment, it feeds the algo. You get my videos quicker, and it gets it out to more people. So I really appreciate you guys, all your support, you have given me. So especially if you get a win on something, you can do the super thanks, which is the video. Remember the button underneath the video. On the normal videos, not the shorts, it's right next to the like and the share button. You can click thanks, and you can send a little money appreciation if you get a win with any of my picks. So just keep that in mind. But the ultimate way you can help me is obviously becoming a member. That's where you're going to benefit the most as well, okay? So anyways, getting back to it, let's talk about one of the mistakes I made. So obviously with, playing silica, that stock back down, right? Not just taking the profit and leaving, right? But again, made money the third time. So overall did do well with that trade as well. Now here's where I made a mistake, okay? Upstart stock, believe it or not. So the first time, I'm going to tell you how I played it. So we bought this stock originally when it went on that huge run up to $399, guys, okay? And I think I made like $50,000 on it, which this at the point was my biggest win that I had made, okay? And I didn't sell it at the top. Remember, you're not going to get the bottom and the top perfectly, okay? But I did sell, I think, my final shares like just above $300 and then watched it continue to go. I was like, oh my God, right? But I didn't FOMO in, proud of myself. And it came all the way back down, as we know. And I was being patient. I was like, okay, wow, it's in the hundreds now, okay? So I'm like, well, I kept watching it. It went under 150. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start buying a little bit, okay? So I started dollar cost averaging. And I bought a little, I remember in the 140s, then it went down to in the 120s. I bought them more. And then I was like, okay, wait a minute here. You know, inflation's going up, okay? Remember that when interest rates were being jacked up because inflation at one point hit over 9%. And I was worried that this was going to continue. And this is where I was like, I'm getting out of the way here. I'm not playing this game. And so I ended up taking a loss. I was buying bigger blocks of shares and I finally, luckily, got out of the way. But if I was using a stop loss at that point, I would have saved a lot more money, okay? So that's when I learned always use the stop loss in this example, okay? And the great thing is I finally came to my senses and the stop kept falling all the way to the teens. Unbelievable. I could tell you I would have never expected that in a million years. And at this point, I was nervous because so many analysts, again, there's fear out there saying this company is going to go out of business because they can't handle this higher interest rate environment. Because it is an interest rate sensitive stock, right? They revolve around loans. And that's why now today, remember, with interest rate cuts happening, it's going to be the opposite, guys. So I'm very confident that we're going to get a nice pop with Upstart one day, especially when we get into two, interest rate cuts or more. It's going to be exciting. But anyway, so I took a loss and then, but luckily I got out, went all the way down to the teens. And this is when I was recommending it again. In the teens and the 20s, I recommended it. I remember when it at $18 a share, I recommended it when Castle Lake was helping them, buy their loans off their balance sheet because they were using it to test their AI model. That's when I really recommended it to you guys hardcore. And I kept recommending saying buy in the 20s before it's at 30. And then I was like, buy before it's at 40. And then it went all the way up, guys, to, as we know, to $96 a share. We made a lot of money there. And I locked in a lot of my gains. Like I said, I am playing with only profits now because I crushed it with that company. And now we went all the way back down and it actually touched $30 again. And that's when I came back out saying, okay, buy, right? Keep buying this now because we're going to play this back up, guys. And there's going to be a huge run here again. This stock, once they get to GAAP net income profitability, which you're expecting by the end of the year, that's going to get more institution attention. And that's where big money can come into this name and it can go a lot higher, especially if we're into interest rate cuts by then. Even if it takes, like you've heard me say, till next year when the new Fed chair comes in who replaces Powell, if Trump does replace Powell, which it sounds like he will. We know Trump wants 100 basis points of interest rate cuts. I think the guy that comes in next will get that done. So that's why I'm saying these small cap stocks, guys, the Millionaire Maker small cap portfolio that I just put out to members today, this, if you hold till next year, June, okay, you're going to like what you see. This is where we can make a killing together, guys, and make more money than you've ever imagined. So if you're not a member yet, guys, I highly recommend it because we are getting close to those interest rate cuts and you want to be in the right stocks and I have them ready to go. So I wanted to share these experiences with you. No one's perfect. Everyone has to learn along the way. So I learned how to set a stop loss. I learned when you like a company's technology and believe in it that you hold no matter what, even if their financials aren't good, when the stock price is low, that's where you can get those exponential gains one day when, right, the company does improve their financials and goes mainstream, kind of like Navitas, like Lightbridge, right? I'm going to hold and keep buying the dips on those. Okay, obviously, if something rips 200% or more in a day like Navitas did, I'm okay taking out my initial investment and letting profits ride. Okay, that's one time where I'm okay in my long-term account trimming some, okay? But I've learned to keep believing, and especially if you like the management, if they have skin in the game, they're, insider buying, right? And also buying back their own shares, right? But that's obviously comes later down the road after they're a profitable company. Usually is when they would buy their shares back, okay? But I learned RSI along the way too, guys. I wasn't using that with Upstart either when it was falling, okay? From the 140s down to where I said before I finally sold, okay? So I learned RSI is going to help me get good entry points, which I'm sharing with you guys. Stop losses on every short-term trade as well, so you don't get burned and you always have your cash available for another day. Obviously, that's your short-term account. If you really believe in a company long-term, right, then just keep holding. And that's money, obviously, you don't need to live on, like we talked about, all that. Okay. So anyways, I hope you guys got something out of this. This is a little snapshot of my investment journey. And like I said, AI is my bread and butter, and I've been researching constantly for years, guys, stocks in this sector that will benefit. So we're going to make a lot of money together. I'm excited. We're going to have a lot of fun along the way. You know all the reasons. Obviously, becoming a member, I tailor it to what you want to see. I get back to you right away with your comments, and much more. Millionaire Maker stock portfolio. Now the addition of the Millionaire Maker small cap portfolio as well. So we got everything, guys. So look forward to having you aboard and enjoy the rest of your day.